Hello there. In Zechariah 10, the very first verse, we read, "Ask rain from the Lord at the time of the spring rain." And I believe this can be taken as an encouragement to ask God for blessing on our land in a season when God is clearly on the move. And I want to tell you a revival story that illustrates this biblical truth. In 1840, revival came to the small village called Abergwesyn, deep in the Cambrian Mountains in West Wales. It happened in a small congregational chapel called Moriah. And the story is a fascinating one, for it teaches us something about how to lay hold of God with faith during a season when He is on the move. Revival had broken out elsewhere in Wales in 1840, and a group of men from Moriah Chapel in Abergwesyn were discussing what they had heard about it one evening after a Sunday prayer meeting. And we know their names. They were Thomas Price, he was a 50-year-old farmer. There was David Morgan, he was a 35-year-old farmer. And then there was Roderick Williams, a 25-year-old miller of Abergwesyn Mill, which was very close to the chapel itself. And all of these three men were married men with families. And then there were two others, younger guys, Reese and Isaac Jenkins, and they were aged 15 and 20, respectively, and they lived a few miles away over the mountain. They're a bit of a mixed group, three different generations really represented by them. One of the five wanted to know why it was that their own community had been unaffected by the revival which they had heard was happening elsewhere. And in the discussion that followed, three questions kind of crystallized between them. And in summary, the questions were these: if revival is already going on and God is in these days pouring out His Spirit, why shouldn't that also happen in Abergwesyn? And then, if that is not unreasonable, why should it not come about through us? And then, in fact, why delay? Why not press into God for an outpouring now, rather than wait until the next church meeting? So effectively, the three questions were, why not here? Why not us? And why not now? Even though it was already quite late and the prayer meeting itself had finished, the five men decided to stay and pray together to ask God to pour out His Spirit upon them. And the first time they prayed around in the circle, more or less in cold blood, and not very much happened, to be honest. There was no real sense of breaking through to a new level, but not deterred, they decided to pray again, one after the other. This time they were encouraged by some sense of warmth and animation in their praying, but there was still no sense of the Holy Spirit really breaking into their gathering and touching their hearts. Determined to keep going, despite that it was now getting very late and they all had work the following day, the five men prayed a third time. And this time, after they'd prayed for a while, the Holy Spirit came down and overwhelmed them with a powerful sense of the presence of God. They could not contain the immense joy they felt welling up within them and burst out one after the other with praise to God. They continued to sing and pray together until long after midnight. Meanwhile, their families were getting a little worried. Where were they so late at night? Some of the wives set out to find them, and when they came to the chapel, they also found themselves completely overcome by the Holy Spirit and joined in with the praise. This continued long into the night. When the congregation of Moriah gathered again the following Sunday for their usual Sunday meeting, the Holy Spirit was once again powerfully active. The whole congregation, and this is a quotation from the time, broke out in tears and praise together. The Holy Spirit had well and truly visited remote Abergwesyn, And he had done so in response to the praying of 5 members of the congregation without any involvement of a minister whatsoever. The revival continued in Abergwesyn for 3 months after this. The weekly Sunday meetings were not enough to satisfy the people's hunger for more of God. And there were gatherings each evening in the various farms scattered across this remote mountainous district. The people would walk 6 to 8 miles across rough mountainous terrain, visiting the farms round about to fellowship and to pray and to sing together. The whole period was characterized by constant prayer and worship going on without any sign of weariness or fatigue amongst the people who were involved, often until very late at night. The people seemed to thrive completely on the revival that had been prayed down by 5 men from Moriah, gathering together, intent on experiencing the fire from heaven. So what can we learn from this? Being proactive and pressing in with faith is a key, whoever you are. Why not here? Why not us? Why not now?